Shalom and welcome to Kingdom Stories. It's so good to have you here. Today we're talking to Shané de Villiers. She is Claude's wife. She's intently involved in this ministry in an advisory capacity, and we all dream together. She listens to all the ideas as well, and she adds, and it's so wonderful to have her also a part of this. Obviously, she's extremely involved, and she loads the recordings. She and Claude both load the recordings that are played on the radio, the teachings that we play. So, Shané, welcome. Welcome. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
So, tell me, did you grow up as a Christian? How did you come to the faith?
Okay, yes, I grew up in a loving home of a father, and so I grew up in Christianity home. We went to church and so on. So I never really had the urge, like really, you have to get on the right path. So I knew to read Bible and everything. So yeah.
Cool. Tell me about your relationship with Elohim.
Okay, so yeah, my relationship with Elohim, I always think that everybody's relationship can grow more and more every time. I must say Elohim is near and dear to my heart. And we must listen to him when he speaks, especially when he speaks, when he instructs you to do something. And I love him dearly. There are sometimes I question him, like we all do. But so I must say he's awesome.
I love how you say that we should listen to him when he speaks. So tell me, how did you come to Torah?
Okay, so I was still in my parents' house, and so then suddenly they said, no, now we are going to change up things a bit. We went to a bar mitzvah, and so that was really interesting. And so then the people spoke to my parents about Shabbat and everything. So then the first Shabbat we went to this church, and after that we just fell in love with the word they gave us, and so we started attending it, and just then they would say, okay, this is coming up, this feast. Yes, this is awesome. Wow, Abba just put it in our hearts to follow the Torah path, and
When was this? When did you start keeping Torah?
that was in 2012. So
So a couple of years. That's amazing. How did you get salvation in your heart? How did you know that you have salvation? And tell us that story.
Oh, okay. That one is really interesting. I remember this one Sabbath day, me and my husband was at home, and he watched a teaching. I can't remember about what specifically, and then he loves to teach and write on the whiteboard and what scratch there and tell me everything. And so then he spoke about everlasting life and that we all go to heaven. And I was like, Claude, how can you say that? Because what I was taught is you sin, and I believed in my heart, yes, I'm a sinner, so every sinner goes to hell. And I was like, so in my heart I was set like I can do everything in my might to glorify Elohim and everything, but I knew I was going to hell, so why should I do more effort? And Claude looked at me and I was like, what? Where did you hear that from? I was like, no, that's what I thought. He's like, no, my dear wife. No, you are going to heaven. You have everlasting life because of your relationship with Elohim, and you recognize him as your Lord and Savior, and that he took you through all your trials and tribulations and you held on to him. And I was like, wow. And I sat there and I started crying. And I was so relieved because for more than 10 years, I believed I was going to hell. So, yeah, that was pretty amazing. It felt like that was a life-changing day.
That's amazing. What a testimony. So, are you interested in evangelism?
So, my heart is not that, how can I say it? My heart is not so much drawn to evangelism, but I do know that the word says I'm my husband's helpmeet. So I try to uplift him and motivate him to preach the gospel. And yeah, so that's really interesting how Elohim helped me to pray for him. Yeah, when he's in dangerous situations or dangerous areas. Yeah.
So, I must say that Elohim gave Claude the perfect wife in Shané because she just goes with whatever Father shows Claude, and then she's like, yeah, yeah. Well, it seems like that on the outside. I don't know what conversations happen behind closed doors. And one of them was Father showed Claude to follow the faith of Abraham. And what did Abraham do? He lived in tents, right? And then Shané was just like, okay, sure. And you lived in tents. What? Like, I know of very few wives that would just be so chill about it. Like, yeah, let's go live in a tent. We're just married, but let's go. So will you please share on that? Like, how did you feel about that? Were you, to us, it seemed like you were just like, all right, let's go. And you were just like the perfect helpmeet, but how did your heart feel about that?
So yeah, as you said, he got this urge, and Father told him he must follow the faith of Abraham. So we were married 3 months in, and then he felt like Elohim told him he must resign his job, and I was like, okay. He told me that, and I was like, okay, wow. And he told me about, yes, living in this tent, and I was like, wow, what a fabulous thing. And so I had this picture, and on the internet about this tent living and what, and I was like, oh, this is a glamorous lifestyle. So, and we moved and everything, and so when we got there, back in Bloemfontein, because we moved from Welkom to Bloemfontein, and so it was this 10-man tent, and so it was huge. So all of our stuff fit into that big tent, and so one night there came a storm, and it was like 2 days after we've moved in, storm, and we just heard this loud noise outside, a wind, and I got so scared. I was like, I'm climbing underneath this duvet, and I pulled it over my head, and when I saw the tent was on top of us, I looked out and I just saw this tent right in front of my face, the tent's roof. And so we moved in a tinier one, a little a more compacted one, and and then I couldn't understand, why did Abba have to say to Claude, leave your job and follow the faith of Abraham? And there was a time I didn't want to read Bible. I didn't pray. So one day Claude came up to me and I was like, have you done Bible study yet? I was like, no, why do I need to do Bible study? Because he just told me, I must be your helpmeet, so I'm your helpmeet. I followed you, and yeah, that's most enough. And then for a while I was really, I blamed God for that, and so we lived in that tent for 5 months, and after that we moved into a shanty for 6 months, and after that we moved to PE for a few months, and then back to Bloem. So in a marriage of 3 years, we've moved 7 times. So yeah, I could really see Abram's faith in this. So yeah, praise Elohim. I got back and I asked for forgiveness, and yeah, praise his name.
Amen.
Amen.
What is your take on having a man that evangelizes and then you're his wife? How is your heart relating to your husband going away into dangerous areas? How is it when you're here at home and he's away? Share a little bit on that for us.
Yeah, that is really a difficult one for me, especially if I know this is a really dangerous place. And what I've learned is when he goes out and it's a dangerous place, I can't protect him. So I so one day I believe Father put it on my heart was I'm human. So so I can't protect him, and the only thing I felt in my heart was like give him in Abba's hands, and that is the best place you can leave him at. So, and I believe that Father protects him. So yeah, and that's where I leave him. So every time I pray for him when I know he's in a dangerous place, and Abba, I just give him in your hands and let him be the instrument, and please give him the words he must speak to the people. And yeah.
So you guys have been doing this for a while. Claude has gone on multiple outreaches where he sleeps in tents and things, quite exposed. Do you have any advice for a new, like a wife whose husband is now getting involved in this, who doesn't have so much experience in it yet? But you have some experience. Do you have any advice that you can give to them, to the wives, as to like what they can do in that time? How they can support their husbands, anything that you would like to highlight?
So my take is like when your husband goes out, pray for him, and as I said, just leave him in Abba's hands, but pray constantly for him and just ask Abba to reach that he will reach the people that must be reached in that outreach. And I know especially with Claude, he can just relax when he comes home and the house is clean and everything is on its place, and he can just come back and relax. Yeah, that's really special, I think. And yeah, that makes him like, okay, now he can rest for a few hours or for the next few days and to recharge with Abba. And yes.
That sounds awesome. What a wonderful opportunity to be a good helpmeet, if your husband is involved in the kingdom. So tell me about the healings that you have experienced. I would love to hear about those.
Sure, there are quite a few. But yeah, I had as usual, you get headaches from lights or just from the heat or so on. So Father healed me of multiple headaches, and then a bit more serious.
Before you go into the next, if you say Father healed you from multiple headaches, do you you get a headache and then you pray? What happens? What do you say?
Okay, yes. When I would walk outside, or sometimes you just get the striking headache, and so then I lay my hands on my head and say, "Thank you, Abba, for healing me. For through the stripes of Yeshua, I am healed." And yes, and then I stand on that healing, and everything that wants to blindfold me, not to accept that healing, I just cast away, and then I praise Abba, and then I go on with that.
Amen. Okay.
And and then Abba also healed me from serious menstruation cramps. Like one day we were attending this one congregation, and so this guy, you can say pastor, got word from Elohim, and he said that here's someone sitting here with severe menstrual pains. You're lying on the bed and crawling in the bed, and someone, he said, Father said, I must pray for you. You must come up. And I was just sitting there. It's like, no, that is not me. There's probably somebody else in this congregation. That's them. It's not me. And and he said, okay, he's calling again. And I was like, no, it's not me. There's somebody else here. And then finally I stood up, and so he prayed for me, and praise Abba, I got healed. And few years later on, I got it again. And so that was like seriously cramping pains. I've never experienced that in my life. And so I prayed, and Claude prayed with me for days and for months. He prayed for me, and so Abba healed me. So it was a real faith stretch. So yes, so Abba healed me of that.
Do you want to share about what happened in December?
Okay, so in December we were we were house sitting, and then all of a sudden, as the time of the month, it started, and I just felt horrible. It was seriously one of the worst. and when it's sometimes when it's that bad, it's like I'm constantly in the bathroom, and I'm nauseous, and terrible. And so then I prayed, and while I was in the bathroom, and I got angry, and Claude said, but you must cast away this thing. And I was like, but I am. He's like, no, not with faith. And I was like, the last time I was like, now this is enough. Now I stood over the toilet, and I was like, I command you in the name of Yeshua, you shall go now, you shall flee, and you shall not come back. I was so angry with that. And and praise Abba, I walked out of there, and I went to the couch, and I was like, wow, thank you, Abba. And the pain just left me, and I fell asleep, and when I woke up, it was all healed. Praise Abba.
Praise Elohim. Do you have any other instances where something happened and you were healed?
I can remember this time I had COVID-19. That was hectic. I had all the symptoms, and that you don't have the appetite to eat and everything. And so I was walking at that time on the premises we were gathering, and so this time I got up, and I just thought, this is enough. The same attitude I had with the menstrual pain I had with this COVID. And I walked up and down and said, I cast you out in the name of Yeshua. You shall leave my body, and you shall go. And it was a few times, and then I would like vomit, like, and then I would go on, walk again, and cast out this thing, and through Yeshua's stripes I am healed. And I would walk up and down again, and after 4 days, Abba healed me, and praise his name for all the healings.
So when you gave birth, there was something amazing that happened as well. So that was a home birth. And would you like to expound more on what happened there?
So, so the one morning I had to go to the loo, and so I stood up, wanted to switch on the light, and there I see my water just broke. And so then I called Claude and was like, Claude, my water just broke. He's like, what? And after 22 hours, Natalie was born. And so there was a couple of things that was really terrible for me. And when she was born, so I did a lot, and so they stitched me up, and for a few days I had this like, it's her fault and everything. And then, as the normal postpartum depression, and Claude prayed for me, and that was really hard. But a few days later, he made us coffee, and I stood up from the couch, and I took the coffee mugs that he just made for us, and I went and I stood there, and I saw this dark spot on my eye, and I thought, no man, it's just one of those things you just see, and it's gonna be gone in a few moments. And later on, I just saw, no, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was like, okay. And so that I can't see through my one eye, the half of it, I couldn't see it. So if I held out my hand, I could only see three of my 5 fingers. And so then we started praying, and I believed, yes, thank you, Abba, you're gonna heal me. And I stood on the word, and yes, after 45 minutes, Abba healed me totally, and I could see again. So praise his name. He's really good. And
That's awesome. Praise his name. Have you ever been delivered from a demon?
Oh yes, I think a few, or I know a few. I know Elohim delivered me from a self-destructive or a self-hatred demon, where Jezebel was one of them. So I was delivered from a self-destructive demon, and Jezebel, because when I was 2 or 3 years old, I was molested, and I believe that's where Jezebel came in, and as a self-hatred. And this one time, I can remember that my parents told me I must finish up. We're gonna leave soon, and I wasn't just in a hurry. I was just so relaxed. And then my parents left, and I was like so shocked that they left without me. And so then I closed the door, and I was sitting in front of this wall, but it's not the normal flat walls. I'm not sure. It's like a more crusty type of. Yes, yes, exactly. And so then I started bumping my head against it and pulling out my hair. And so Claude was at the door, and he's like, Shané, open this door. And I was like, why? He's like, what are you doing? I was like, nothing. He's like, open this door or I will kick it down. So then I was like, okay. And so then I opened the door, and he saw me, and the look he had, he could see it wasn't me at all. And so he prayed for me, and I got delivered from that spirit. And so and I can remember this other time as well. Me and Claude were sitting on the couch, and he shared some of his emotions. And I just started laughing hysterically. And he looked at me, and he was like, what is this? And he just knew. Abba showed him, this is not me. This is a spirit. And he casted out that spirit, and yeah, praise Abba, that spirit left me, and yeah, so I was delivered from that as well.
So now that you've healed from being attacked when you were little, have you been able to help someone else who has gone through that? Through your experience, have you been able to help other people who have been through the same?
Yes, I believe so. This one time we were at the church service, some of Claude's colleagues asked him to come and join at his church where he was preaching, and we went there, and there was demon deliverance, and and then it came out that there was also the same situation of molestation and so on. And I just realized I have to give my testimony of this. And I started sharing, and they stood there, and I was like, wow, did I just tell them all of this? And I could see how the people just was like, you could just associate with them and just tell them, but Abba sees it and he hears your heart, and just ask him to heal you, and so that you can live a life in his will and with forgiveness towards them.
So if somebody's listening to this now and they've been through a similar thing, what would you say to them?
That Abba sees your heart and he hears you, and work with him. Tell him how you feel. Tell him your heart. Share your heart with him, and ask him that he will heal you and that you will forgive that person. It's hard, I know, but through him, you can have healing and restoration in that area.
I'm so looking forward to Yeshua being king. He will not take nonsense like that. He will sort those people out very quickly. Well, the attackers, of course. So if there's one thing that you want everyone in the whole world to know, what would that be?
Abba Father sees everything, and no deed goes unpunished. So I believe that you will see it, and as well, he is a righteous Elohim. So yes, no deed goes unpunished.
Thank you so much for coming today. Thank you for sharing your testimony with us. May it encourage you at home. May this minister to you, and may Father bless you, Shané. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.